Hello, welcome back to our channel.
It's Brian here.
It's Mariam.
Say hi, Ace.
AC.
Look at the camera. Over there. But this is our next video, as Mariam was saying. Last video is to be authentic. This video is to be smart. So every parent wants their child to be smart, right, Ace? Every parent wants that.
Yeah.
But what does it mean? And as Mariam and me were talking, I realized I didn't really like the word smart, actually. Like when I was growing up, I didn't like when people called me smart.
Why don't you like when people call you smart, Brian?
Because people just had a different definition of smart than I did. I think so many people, when they think of smart, they think your IQ or something you're just born with, or the genes passed down from generations, or just your DNA, something you can't control, or you just know a lot of information.
Right.
And although some of that is being smart, particularly knowing a lot of information, that's not how I define smart. I think it's more so what you can control. That's what you gotta focus on. That's growth mindset, always wanting to learn new information, learning from your mistakes, from your experiences, showing wisdom, applying your knowledge, social intelligence, street smart. So like all of that, like that's how I define smart. And that's why honestly, to be smart is still in the title, because we almost want to redefine what smart means to the parents out there.
Right.
And like all these topics, we're going to cover them as this video goes along. If you're an impatient soul out there, this video is not for you, because we're going to go deep into it. And I think it's going to be a great video.
Yes. So tune in, guys.
Right. So let's get right to it. So before we go into the mindset tools and the things we're going to instill in Ace, let's just go into the practical things that parents can do to get their child to be as smart as possible. So right now Ace is 8.5 months pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, like some of the things we do with Ace, like we talk to him a lot. Like we have so many books. I got a couple books here. Just like ABC book, just any book, just to instill that reading, right?
Yeah. Also, you have to repeat things like 1,000 times. So if you want them to learn something, just keep repeating it. Like for me, I taught Ace how to do the clap his hands. So say to him and say, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Yeah.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
It's just like those tunes, the repetition, that's what gets a baby's brain to develop pretty much.
Right.
Like just letting Ace explore, like with toys, with different things, touching different things, that's all great for brain development. And then as he gets older, just when he starts watching TV, making sure that he watches educational television, emphasizing his education in school. Like, we don't want to be the type of parents right now to just, like, lay him on the couch and just put a screen in his face, because that's not good for his brain development. Also, like, what he eats, that's so important, too. And we can make this video about that practical stuff for a baby, but honestly, there's so much information online about that stuff. So, personally, we don't want to go too deep into it. It's so important because so much of brain development happens in that first year. So don't think us just glossing over it says it's not important, but there's so much information online. So for this part, for a baby and that sort of thing, you can go online for that information. We more so want to focus on instilling different things in Ace to help him achieve his smart potential.
Right.
And Mariam, like the first thing is just making sure that we instill him to just dream big, you know? Just dream big. I think a lot of smarts just starts with that. Like you have to have a dream. And like whatever he's interested in passion-wise, we just want to encourage him to learn as much as he can with that. You know, don't settle knowledge-wise. You know, like if he's really interested in science, we're gonna encourage that. Really encourage him to chase his passions there.
Yeah.
And we were talking like, you know, if he's like 8 years old, he wants to be a pilot. We're going to be very conscious of telling him maybe inspirational stories tied to that. You know, like Captain Sully, what was that, 2009? He landed that plane on the Hudson River.
Right.
Saved a bunch of those, a bunch meaning all actually, everyone in the plane he saved with that emergency landing in the Hudson River. So just telling Ace stories like that if he wants to be a pilot, that's inspirational for him. So just igniting that passion, that's really the start of getting your child to be smart.
Right.
And I was like half joking with Mariam about this, but I was kind of dead serious. If he's like 8 and he wants to be a pilot, and say he does a project in school on wanting to be a pilot, I was thinking like I'll just email the different airlines in the city and be like, I have this child, he really is interested in being a pilot in planes. Can he take a tour of a plane? Or maybe I'll say, can his whole class take a tour? Maybe, facilitate his field trip for him as a parent. So
I
just
think
like,
that's a great idea.
right, like just, it might be extra, but sometimes as parents you have to be that.
Extra, you gotta be extra.
Because like if we can ignite his passion, that's a big part of being smart. Just, making sure that he dreams big pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
And like, the next point is, AC, you having fun with this video? I know. Yeah, I know it's very tough to just be in your mommy's arm the whole time, but we appreciate your patience.
Right.
The next part is just emphasizing that he has his own standards, like high expectations. We don't want him to compare himself to maybe people that are below him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm big into sports, so like basketball. Say he's like amazing at basketball, and he's in like 10th grade. He might think he's the greatest ever. But really, maybe he's just going against poor competition in 10th grade. Then he goes off to college and he's like, wow, there's a whole nother level for me to reach. Right. And then maybe he goes on to the NBA and he's like, wow, there's a whole nother level. And that sports reference, that's really can be cross-referenced to life in general. I mean, you're in high school, you think you're the smartest person ever. Then you get to college and you're like back at the bottom. And that's really what life is building yourself up. That's why we want him to have his own expectations, have high expectations. Like we want Ace to be a king, right?
Yes, we do.
We want him to be a king, and we want him to surround him with kings. We don't want him to have like a king of peasants mentality where he just thinks he's a king because he's around a bunch of people lower than him.
That is true.
That's not what we want. And also, like, a big part of that is being internally driven. So that means like no matter your environment, you hold yourself to a high standard.
Yeah.
You can't use that as an excuse if you have a poor environment.
Yeah. Basically, we want Ace to be a sponge, soaking all the information that he can get, possible,
Yeah.
We want him to be.
And it's
like
like be a sponge no matter what. If he's in a 9th grade, he has 3 amazing teachers that hold him to a high standard, and he has one teacher where they don't have control of the class, he can slack off. The question is, will he slack off? Will he slack off, or is he just a great student when people are watching and when other people hold him to that standard? So that's the question. We want him to be internally driven to where he pushes himself. He dictates his smarts. It doesn't matter if people are watching or they're not. Like, we failed as parents if he only does his homework when we're watching.
Yeah.
Like, we want him to just push himself in the dark when no one's watching. Don't rely on external rewards and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's like a big point. I mentioned a lot there, but it's all related. High expectations, being internally driven, avoiding a kings of peasants mentality. And like the next point that we want to mention is process over goals.
Right.
Like that's so important. You have to prioritize the process over the end result. So what do I mean by that? A classic example is you're trying to get an A, but you really want to prioritize the studying habits that it takes to get the A. So for me, I've really worked hard, Mariam. I'm not gonna lie. I really worked hard school-wise, like especially 9th to 12th grade, maybe even when I didn't have to, because I just held myself to that standard. So for me, if I studied as hard as I possibly could, little boy, what are you doing on that little green ball? But if I studied as hard as I possibly could, it didn't matter what my grade was, because I knew I tried my hardest.
Yeah.
And like that's a mentality that's gonna help him long term. He can always take that with him, like emphasizing the process over goals. He's got to take pride in that for sure.
Right.
Yeah. And like that's tied in with delayed gratification. I knew of this idea, before filming this video, but I do want to give credit to where it's due. This is from a 1972 study. It's called the Marshmallow experiment. long story short, and honestly, I might have some of my information incorrect, but I believe it was like 3 to 5-year-olds. They were given a marshmallow, and they were told basically if you wait 15, 20 minutes, you can get another marshmallow.
Right.
Or you can take the first marshmallow. And they track these children over time. And like 15, 20 years later, the children that waited for that second marshmallow had higher academic scores and just, achieved more in life.
They were more successful, basically, than the ones that took the marshmallow,
Yeah, because I think, it's just like the sacrifice of just life in general, and everyone can relate to that. There's so much sacrifice with everything. Just life. It's like you study to get an A. So why do you get an A? To maybe get into a top high school. Why do you want to get into a top high school? To get into a top college, to learn as much as you can. Why do you want to do well in college? To get a great job. Why do you want a great job? To make money. Why do you want to make money? To save money.
Right.
So your children can be well off. So you can retire. So you can go on vacations. It's like, it's all related. All life is like delay your gratification.
Yeah.
That's the mentality we want to instill in ACE for sure. And I thought of this a few days ago of like, how can we instill this in Ace? So one example I thought of was when he's like 8 years old, I was like, you can have $1 Ace for your birthday, or you can wait a year and we can double that. And we can keep on doubling that until you want to cash out,
Right.
up until you're 18 maybe. And I'm really good at math, so that would be pretty much 2 to the 10th power, $1,024 if he waits till he's 18.
Ace, are you going to wait?
You gonna wait?
See, yeah.
I'm probably gonna stop at 18 because, of course, with multiplying numbers, that would really go up if you keep on going. Can you imagine if we did like the rest of his life?
Yeah, that would be a lot.
That would be like
money.
almost, that would be several $100 billion trillion.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. We're gonna stop at 18. But
it's up to him to continue if he wants to.
Yeah, and like the mindset will continue. I mean, of course, the money is like kind of for the message. It's not so much about money with this subject of delayed gratification, but it helps instill the message for him, I think.
That is true.
And so that's like really important stuff there. And the next thing is tied to it, just a growth mindset.
Yeah.
As before, I want to give credit to where it's due. Carol Dweck, she is a psychologist. She came up with this idea of like, Mariam, I'm trying to think, like, if like Ace is like 7 and he comes home and he says, I suck at math, I am terrible at math, what's our response going to be?
We won't say, we'll say, you'll get better over time.
Yeah, like, because Ace controls how good he is.
Right.
Like, just like, what a fixed mindset is this is how I'm going to be forever.
No.
Like, what we're going to do when he says, like, I suck at math, well, not I suck at math, but if he says, I am not good at math, we're going to say, like, for now.
Yeah.
Or, like, I'm not good at math yet.
Yeah.
Like, everything is subject to change.
Yeah.
And just that growth mindset, that's so important, always wanting to get better. And, like, we don't want him to have, like, a self-defeating mentality, like, ooh, I suck at this. We want to nip that in the bud early. If we get that sorted out at age 4, that's not going to be a problem at age 16.
Yeah.
And Mariam, like, can you just, you just come across, like me, like so many teenagers, even adults that just still have a fixed mindset on things. Like we want to cover that early so he doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And
it's always room to grow. You don't want to just be in the same situation. So it's always.
Little boy. Yeah, and this is tied in with like always wanting to learn. That's being humble, having a low ego, like recognizing you can always improve. And I'm a big quote person. Honestly, I'm trying not to go too deep in quotes with these videos, but Socrates' quote really rings true. He said, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. So I'm mentioning that in this video to be smart because it's applicable so much. So many people might think being smart is thinking you know everything. That's not, because you can't know everything. You gotta have the wisdom to just keep on learning.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, how can we instill this in Ace? So I was like, when he's age 6, we'll be like, Ace, do you see those 4-year-olds over there? Do you remember when you were 4? Mm-hmm. And he'll be like, wow, like I was that tiny? Like I couldn't talk really, like, or like we'll say like, do you look at that newborn baby, you know, and just at age 6, it'll be just noticing the transition over time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and even like a physical standpoint, I'm sure you watching, you remember when you were in 12th grade and you saw those freshmen walking in the door, and you were like, I was that small 3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, you were, and then your brain is like, you know, your body grew that much in 3 years. Everyone knows also your brain grows that much. So the same correlation from physical to mental occurs, you know, and just me personally, like I'm 27. I had to think because I just turned 27, but like I'm so much smarter than I was 4 years ago. And then when I was 22, I'm like, wow, I know so much more than when I was 17. You know, so just personally, like I know, like you just grow and grow, you know, and that's a big thing that we want to instill in Ace.
Right.
And also, like, for parents out there too, a little side note, you gotta maintain this mentality too. Like, you can always improve as parents.
Yeah.
You know, like even us, like we're researching things, we're trying to learn things. I love mentioning Kobe Bryant, especially, you know, in a weird way. Our first video was when he passed. I know his memorial's tomorrow, so I'll mention a story I read when he died. It was his late daughter who died also, Gianna. She was 13, great basketball player. So he was like, how can I coach her to be the best basketball player that she can be? And Kobe, one of the best players ever, wasn't like, I'm so great at basketball, I'm not gonna ask anyone for advice on this. Even the greatest. He knew of a great high school female basketball player, and he knew that she was coached by her dad. So what did he do? He reached out to them and he talked with her father, like, so how did you get your daughter to be this good at basketball while coaching her?
Right.
You know, it's just that mindset, like that humble attitude that Kobe had. That's something everyone can relate to. You know, because if the greatest can have that attitude, everyone can have that attitude. So I'm challenging you as a parent. Try to be the best parent you can be. Don't be overconfident. You know, be confident, but always learn new information. You know,
True.
so and Ace, you know, same thing. You know, raise your children that way too. And so my next point. So, well, first I want to backtrack. So, though all those points I just mentioned, they're all mental, like psychology things that we want to, you know, instill in Ace so he can be as smart as he can possibly be. So, a more practical thing now is just encourage Ace to ask as many questions as he wants to ask.
Right.
You know, like that's so important. Like if he asks us like, so where does money come from?
Yeah.
Where does trash go? You know, like, we're going to be encouraging him to ask those questions, get as much information as he can.
Right.
You know? I mean, even like, we might even give him a notebook and be like, any question you got, write it down here. You know? If we can't answer it, we're going to look it up together on the internet.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and then that's kind of like an introduction to how you can use the internet for positive things. You know, I don't want to get on a rant about phones and the internet, but so many people just waste time on the phone. So if we can, you know, incorporate a positive, productive thing for Ace to look up information on the internet, that's going to help him as he grows up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I know we're covering a lot. Bear with me, though. But also, it's really important to think outside the box as parents. You know, think what motivates your child. Don't grab the camera. But so one example I want to mention is from the book. I don't read many books, surprisingly. But this book was called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Very famous self-development book. And basically a story was told about a 5-year-old didn't want to go to kindergarten. The child just didn't want to, like had no motivation to go. And the parents were like, how do we get this child to go to kindergarten?
Yeah.
They knew the child was very interested in painting, you know, just loved arts and crafts. So that's what they used. They're like, you get to go to kindergarten and do arts and crafts. You know, like you get to do that. And just that motivated the child to go to kindergarten. So sometimes you have to think outside the box. You have to maybe indirectly get your child motivated to go to school or do something to ignite their growth as an individual. You know?
Yeah.
And like that's just so important.
Yeah.
And like we want Ace to learn for learning's sake.
Right.
Also, learn from his mistakes too. Like wisdom, you can't underestimate that.
He can also learn from our mistakes, so we'll try to keep him on track so he won't make the mistakes that we made when we were younger.
Yeah.
You know.
Because if he makes the same mistakes that we made, at least in most cases, I'm sorry.
Hi, baby.
That's on us as parents. If he makes the same mistakes that we do, that's on us, period. You know? And we just always want him to just, learn through his mistakes, maybe we'll just make a fun tune out of it, this is a lesson learned and it won't happen again. Maybe we'll just do that every time he makes a mistake, not right after he makes a mistake, but at the right time. Or maybe he'll keep a notebook with things I learned,
Right.
And that's just so important. And as Mariam was saying, our mistakes, share that. Don't be afraid to do that. Especially financially. I think that's the one area. It's every 25, 30, 35-year-old is probably better financially, savings-wise, not spending money on $4 coffees at Starbucks wise.
Yeah.
Everyone's better at that as they get older. So that's something you really want to talk with your child. And one thing I want to mention too with that is, don't get this confused. We're not saying impose your opinions on your child, but don't go so far in letting your child have their own opinion and be authentic that you forget to actually share information, our last video was to be authentic.
Yeah.
Ace is going to be authentic. That doesn't mean us as parents aren't going to share our knowledge with them.
Right.
Don't neglect that part.
Yeah.
If he's navigating the college application process at age 18 and we know information, we can help him with that, do that.
Wow.
Just share as much information as you can with your child. It's teach your child how to fish. Don't just give him the fish,
Yeah.
Knowledge-wise, just embrace everything there is about sharing knowledge with your child.
Yeah.
And we're kind of getting towards the end. And the final point that I want to make is, don't be smart in a bubble. I mean, you got to recognize everyone around you. You have to learn from other people, Everyone has unique DNA. You have to use that to your advantage. If you want to better the world, use your smarts to better the world. You got to have social intelligence.
Yeah.
For me, this is probably one of my areas that I've improved in along the years. When I was in high school and before that, college even, I was just all in on studying and, I followed sports and just everything with that. I wasn't really open to people. I was a little closed off. So I've gotten open-minded as the years have gone along. And that's a big part of just, growth for an individual and being smart.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of information. We covered a lot.
We did.
And I know Mariam didn't talk that much, but we talked about this before. She's doing a lot with Ace right now. Sometimes I'm gonna be more of a talker, but we discussed everything here and we came up with all this information, through discussing. And that's my challenge to parents out there. Reflect on your parenting and how to raise your child.
Hi guys, sorry we're back again. Our camera was too hot from the lightning, so we had to take a break. Now we're back. Say hi.
Yeah.
Say we're back, guys.
We're back. Ace loves doing that with his hand.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to film this in one take, but so be it. So that's a lot that we covered. We covered what to instill in Ace from a mindset standpoint so he can be as smart as he can possibly be. We talked about, he's a baby, so we read to him, we talk to him as much as possible, all of that, so important. And we talked about just encouraging him to ask questions and just all thinking outside the box as parents, all of that. And we want to challenge the parents out there to not just think about what we talked about, but reflect on your own. Maybe come up with things that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
To just try to ignite your child's potential to be as smart as he or she can be. And the main message is, don't put it in the hands of luck. We have control over this as parents. We can put in the work. Ace can put in the work to be as smart as possible. Don't just think a child just born smarter. It's just their IQ. You don't have control over it. You have control over a lot as a parent. Instilling a growth mindset in your child, that's so important. Your child can learn from their mistakes. Any parent can instill that in their child. What you can control, that's what you gotta focus on. And that's the message in this video that we really want to, portray and give off to the people watching this.
Yeah.
As Ace is eating the water bottle. Even this though, just objects in his hand, that ignites his growth at this age. That gets his brain developing. So it was really fun filming this video and just talking with Mariam about different ways to get Ace to be as smart as possible,
Yeah.
So hopefully you enjoyed it too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Just don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to Brian Donato's channel.
Yeah. And you know, part of being smart is encouraging others to their greatness.
That is true.
Yeah.
Now, Ace, can you say
Wave goodbye.
Can you say bye? Can you go like this?
Mwah.
Yeah?
I want to get a good kiss, Ace. Mwah.
Or can you give Daddy a high five? Give Daddy a high five. You say high five?
That's enough. All right, take care.